Hey everyone, Dan here. We're about an hour after market close on Friday, June 11th. We're going to do that Friday thing and take a look at AMC today. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's jump right in. So what we're primarily going to do, just so you know what you're getting into in this video, in case it's not what you're looking for, we're primarily going to look at the chart and do a trend analysis and sort of look at ways that you might be able to buy into AMC or take positions, whatever those positions may be, in the coming days and weeks, and maybe some price targets that you can look for. And we will actually do a little bit of a look at the short data, but we're not going to get into a bunch of heavy speculation about what may or may not be happening at Citadel or other things. We will talk a little bit actually about naked shorts, but I'll sort of show some of the evidence for that. But yeah, that's primarily what this video is, just so you know what you're getting into before you get too far along. So let's start off with the short data. So let's look at the fee and the availability. So fee is staying very, very low. The fee in and of itself definitely not going to put a lot of pressure on the shorts in order to close their positions. That pressure is primarily going to come from the price movement with a fee this low. We do see yesterday at close, there was 1.8 million available. This is just an interactive broker. So this is just an example of one broker dealer who lends out shares to short, what they're seeing, what they're reporting. So spread this across all of the various broker dealers in the marketplace, and that could give you a picture of how many are actually out there. But so basically all but 45,000 were lent out, rated open this morning. And if we want to kind of zoom in and see what happened today, you see it getting pushed down pretty hard this morning from about 45 down to 42. So that's when all of these shares came in. And then there was some closing that sort of started around 11, the heavy closing started around 11 a.m. this morning. So we look and see what happened around 11 a.m. this morning. We were struggling right around here, and the price continued to kind of waffle around, and then with maybe the lack of that pressure from the shorts coming in. And again, there could have been other shorts coming in at this point from other broker dealers. This is just what Interactive Brokers had going on. But the shorts from their perspective started to close around this time frame. This might have been a big window of shorts closing across the board, and then that helped push the price up in the afternoon, and then again at close. So we see this often on Fridays, though I think there's like info out there that people think that shorts have to close on Friday, but that's not the case. But yeah, throughout the day, from Interactive Brokers, stayed pretty much in that ballpark. Not a bunch of additional borrowing going on after that, like 11:15 time frame. Big thing here is if that fee could get up into, 50-60% would be amazing. Would put so much pressure on the short sellers who have positions to be incurring a fee that high, plus knowing that AMC has this potential for rapid, really, really profound price increases. That would be certainly a lot of pressure to deal with. If we look at the short volume ratio, which comes in on the daily, definitely staying relatively high here, around the 20s. It would be really interesting to see it pop back into the 30s, not necessarily because of what it would do to the share price, because flooding the market with that much supply and selling pressure would obviously drag it down, at least in the near term. But it would be interesting to see what happened on the rebounding end of that, obviously. The higher this ratio for the time being, the more potential squeeze there is at the end of that rainbow. I don't know if that's that's definitely not the right analogy, but you know what I'm saying. The thing that's really interesting to me is if you look here from like April 20th to May 11th, there was, I think, 11 days, 11 trading days in just that 3-week or so time frame where there was over 1 million fails to deliver, which is a nutty amount. Granted, AMC has a high float at 500 million, but that is still a lot of shares that people bought where the person who was selling it to them ultimately said, hey, sorry, I can't locate this, so we're just going to turn your share that you think you hold into an IOU. And so if you need to redeem it, then you're going to redeem it to a person that is then just going to take the IOU. So this puts a bunch of potential phantom shares into the market. This is one of the potential, what do we call it, like a symptom of naked short selling happening, where the reason that there's all of these fails to deliver is because there is nothing to deliver. There was a lending out or a short selling of a share that didn't exist. And so whether that comes from an individual or from a broker dealer, or whether it's intentional or unintentional, known or unknown, it creates this really outsized view of the supply in the marketplace, and it moves the area in which the supply and the demand cross, or that nexus point that usually dictates the price. It moves the supply curve so far to the right and drops the nexus point down, which means that it drops the price down because there's all this artificial supply in the marketplace. What I'm going to be looking for, you see this cuts off on 5/14, which is the first half of May. The SEC provides these zip files twice a month. I'm still waiting for the second half of May zip file to see, did this continue to increase after these are huge numbers here, especially, down here they're in the millions, but they're predominantly in the 1 millions, and then it's predominantly in the 2 millions, and then it's predominantly in the 3 millions. So it's like, are we just on this progressive path to 3 million, and then we're going to see chunks of 4 million, chunks of 5 million? Those are on top of the previous fails to deliver. So that's mostly what I'm waiting for, is for them to publish that zip file, make that available. So that's, it's then possible to dissect the information in there, couple it with the data from the first half of May, and get a full picture of what happened in that month, because I suspect there's going to be a lot of evidence there that there's some short selling that's happening that is of the naked variety. All right, well, let's get into the charting aspect of things. Let's first zoom out to like a month and just sort of let's condense this a bit, maybe closer to 3 weeks to catch some of this move. What I'd mostly be looking for here is essentially some wedging out to be happening. So if we look at capturing, these highs here, I was going to say these peaks, but whatever, these highs here, and then there was a bunch of higher lows coming into play around here, so that obviously hit its own intersection nexus point earlier in the day today, and the price pushed really heavily out of there right at that point. So that could be the start of a really good uptrend. I think the next thing that AMC has to be careful of is there's all of this. We could even drag this back here. There's all of this previous topping out right in this area, like a ton of topping out. If you include this wick, these bodies, this topping out here, here. So it needs to be able to push over and basically get support around that 53 level, right around here, in order to establish a really solid next big uptick. I'd look for actually mid to high 53s right around there, put itself on par with previous support here, just over previous resistance there. That would be a really good zone for it to jump out of and kind of be on its way up. Some additional places where you might look to take price strength dip buys, somewhere around 55, 57, right here around 58. And what I mean by that, just to be clear, is if you're looking to take a position and the price is jumping up, so there's price strength. So let's say the price rockets up to just over 60, and then it hits this previous topping out point, hits this resistance point, and starts to pull back a little bit. You're saying, wow, stock looks great, performing really well. I want to buy into the strength. Well, instead of just chasing it up, you can wait for it to pull back a bit into an area that you expect it to be holding support. Okay, and that would be this 58.23. So maybe you start averaging in at 58.50, 59, something like that. expecting it to bounce on that 58 level. And if it doesn't, maybe you continue to average down and then sort of see what it does at that 55, 57, and then make a decision of whether or not it's bounce worthy or if it's actually like going through a big selling off period or something. But that's what I look for on these upper price targets in order to dip. It's like a weird combo, dip buying into price strength. So there is price strength, but there's inevitably, pullbacks as something rockets its way upward. So I would say all of these are of that variety on the upside. I want to take a quick look at the indicators, see where we are in the long run. Relatively high in the RSI, so that might bring a little bit of pressure on the sell side, but in the vast scheme of things, being in that area of the RSI is nothing. I mean, it spends a lot of time when it's going through some good pushes, right? It spends a lot of time in overbought territory. So I wouldn't let, 60 in this instance seem overly worrisome. On the MACD, definitely some bullish pressure coming in, some bullish momentum coming in. So we see that MACD and signal line continuing to grow real estate between them. That would be a good sign for the bulls that there's some, longevity in this bullish run. Let's pop these off the screen and let's jump to the 5-minute, 5-day to get a better sense of just sort of like what happened this week and what maybe we can expect. I think you have just another sort of microcosm of what we saw in the last chart of this. Where do I think this is? I think it's right around there. For this downtrend that it popped out of right around the same time frame today and is trying to build off of now. The nice thing is it immediately came down and retested it and rejected it and used that as a really nice liftoff period. So around here, I would look for really strong support right about where it is, because you have previous support here and here, previous resistance here and here, and those zones that encompass both previous support and resistance have some extra strength about them. Right around here, if you were looking into, like we just talked about a moment ago, buying into price strength, that zone and that zone would be those in my mind. And then right up here around mid 50s and 56 as well. So that's what I'll be looking for to the upside. If we want to take a look at the MAs, they're in a nice bullish formation here. Those should supply some additional potential support when the price comes down to it, especially the 50. I'll be looking for it like you saw here. Comes down, taps the 50, bounces off, providing nice support. Here it came down and basically stuck itself to the 50 and then pushed off for support. It ultimately fell back through, but also that was like, non-market hours, so there's often weirdness that is happening there. But here you saw it sticking itself to as resistance to the 50 until it ultimately overtook it, got some support, couldn't hold it, but such is the volatile nature of AMC. But I look to the MAs for potential additional areas of support and resistance if they seem to speak to you. RSI on the shorter term time frame, right about midline, so just a tad over 50. Again, doesn't make much of a difference on this one. Easily spends a lot of time in overbought territory. Not a ton of time oversold recently, even though it felt like a kind of down week. I think that's partly because folks are hoping to see that $100 price tag up on the big board, and that just didn't happen. But, MACD essentially right now trying to choose a direction. I know these look like some, pretty big moves, but really it's sort of like a mix of bullish momentum dying down a bit and it just sort of like crossing over the signal line pretty repetitively, which means that it's just sort of waffling around, not yet choosing a destination or a big pump or a big dump. All right, well, I hope you all had a good trading week, and I appreciate you watching this video. I wish you the best next week, and enjoy your weekend. I will see you all in the next video.